asks, why me? Why was I targeted for organized harassment or gang stalking? It means a lot to me to make this video for you. People advance a lot of theories and they blame it on religion, or that they're advocates, or they got involved in some kind of a dispute, or blood type is a real popular one. Remember that organized harassment is as old as people living together in groups. In the modern era, it has a history that goes back really 50, 60 years to create the situation we have now. In the early 70s, Daniel Ellsberg broke into an FBI office and absconded with some documents because he wanted to get evidence that the U.S. had gotten involved in Vietnam on the basis of lies. That's one thing you should take away from Daniel Ellsberg. He got that documentation, and he also found documentation that said that war protesters' claims that they were being followed and were suffering gang stalking were true claims. People didn't want to believe that stuff happened, but it was happening, and he got that on paper. After April of 1995, when the Alfred Murrah Federal Building was destroyed in Oklahoma City, the Counterterrorism Institute emerged as something that was important to this phenomenon. Then after 9/11, George W. Bush made a speech saying the U.S. would pursue terrorists and give them no quarter, and make sure they had no money. He went on to say the whole world is a battlefield and all people are enemy combatants. A lot of people didn't realize that their civil liberties had just been revoked. I was not one of them. 2006, Congress passed the Military Commissions Act of 2006 that eviscerated habeas corpus and posse comitatus. It didn't eliminate them. They aren't gone. It just chose to ignore them. So your right to a speedy trial and the idea that the military wouldn't be used in police actions against civilians was pretty much just set aside. I severely criticized this law on a blog with 2 short posts, but I gave him pretty much the most severe critique that anyone gave. And I was excommunicated among alternative political writers. Then, one by one, these new news aggregator websites were absorbed and taken over by elitist interests, and one by one, I was prohibited from writing comments in them. I'm not talking about posting articles, I'm talking about just writing in the comments section. Until finally, I mean, even now, under my old pseudonym, I can't do it. In 2013, ActivistPost.com ran an article that was widely republished that specified 72 types of individuals who are likely to become terrorists. Now, this is an example of some of them: conservatives, libertarians, evangelical Christians, gun owners, those opposed to illegal immigration, opposed to abortion, globalism, communism, the United Nations, and the New World Order. Opposed to the New World Order? Oh, well, you terrorist. Those who believe in conspiracy theories, anyone who complains about bias or has patriotic or anti-UN bumper stickers. If you're anti-nuclear, you might be a potential terrorist. If you're a returning veteran, give me a break. You believe in the right to bear arms. You endorse the Second Amendment, you terrorist. You oppose the federal income tax. You supported Ron Paul, Chuck Baldwin, or Bob Barr for president. You stockpile ammunition. And how much is that? You suddenly acquired weapons. Well, 1 minute you have one where the minute before you didn't. That's how it always happens, right? You oppose Agenda 21. Oh no, you terrorist. You dread FEMA camps. Well, if you didn't want to be put in a cage, you're probably a traitor and a terrorist. As you can see, this is a ridiculous list. It's 72 items. Most of them are linked to the documents that they rely upon to draw that conclusion. And there's some ridiculous documents. Okay? That list has been widely expanded to include anyone using a cell phone, making notes, or having their hands in their pockets observed in public. Liberals. So you got conservatives. If you're conservative or liberal, you're a potential terrorist. Any sovereign citizen, that's the one that I like. It could be anybody, yeah. You're definitely going to become a terrorist. If you belong to a militia or patriot group. Also, anyone designated an enemy of the state. And my previous video dealt with that subject. There's a strain of cannabis indica named enemy of the state, but weed is not a potential terrorist. Examples of people designated an enemy of the state include, it's an interesting list, Jack Phillips, saying he doesn't design specialty cakes for gay weddings. That's Jack Phillips of the Masterpiece Cake Shop in Lakewood, Colorado. That issue is going to go before the Supreme Court. It's scheduled December 5th of 2017. It'll be interesting to see how they rule. You're also an enemy of the state if you were a Jew in Nazi Germany. If you are Bradley/Chelsea Manning. Edward Snowden. These are people who are engaged, the law says engaged in hostilities against the United States. If you're a human rights group member opposing large commercial development project, any journalist writing a news story, I am designated because my father and stepmother knew David Sid, who could do it, and they all thought it would be funny. You can tell that makes me dangerous. My favorite reason that a person is targeted is for no particular reason except that you're alive and have a name. So you can see it could be just about anybody. You're selected at random, my darlings, all right? It's not your fault. I'm going to make that point again so that hopefully you'll go away from this getting that out of it. The programs are about numbers of targets and program participants because the more targets, the more players, the more money is allocated. The more time the program persists, the more money is paid to the program. The main customers are governments and corporations because they have the money. But, if you've got the money, you can hire the service. And a lot of private individuals provide the service, and public individuals provide the service. 70% of the Department of Homeland Security's budget goes to private security contractors who do two things primarily. Enter fake law enforcement intelligence into the global criminal database network and conduct gang stalking programs. This work has no oversight. And the programs last a lifetime, unless a person is removed for some reason, which happens almost never. People who have a little money in a bank account are targeted, robbed and methodically disassembled, crippled, and killed. Killing the target is the object of these programs. So if you're targeted, they do plan to kill you. And they're very casual about it. If they've been in any length of time, they've killed a large number of people. But keeping the target alive creates more revenue unless it becomes prudent to eliminate the target, or the target's body can be acquired for sale of body parts in illegal trade. In China, people are in the street demonstrating against the practice of having live body part donors, and the donation kills the donor. So this is a bigger problem than I thought it was, and the news doesn't want to report it. Federal law enforcement makes arrests all over the country for people engaged in this illegal trade, and they're big arrests with hundreds of people round up. Selection of targets is not based on empirical data, but on personal bias, presumption, poorly conceived vulnerability assessments, and predictions pulled from thin air. There's a link to a report about START in the description. This is study about terrorism. The number of people placed on the enemies list and terrorist watch lists is classified, as is the information in criminal database files, which can't be divulged to targets without authorization under federal law. Well, who gives this authorization? And if someone's telling me something about my criminal database file, what am I going to do? Call 911? No. I'm going to say thank you, and that will be the end of it. 8 million Americans were thought to be watch listed in 2008. Well, that was 9 years ago. That number has increased exponentially. An ACLU report describing watch listing and the classified criminal database network is linked down in the description. If you're unfortunate enough to be declared an enemy of the state, in addition to being watch listed, or if not watch listed, you are no longer subject to civil or public law. You are stripped of the law's protection. You're subject to military law. That means you can be arrested for no reason, held indefinitely without charges, a lawyer or a court date, tortured and killed, and the state has full authority to seize your assets, or anyone can steal your assets without legal consequences. You can be executed without charges or a trial, or anyone can murder you and evade prosecution. You can't hire a lawyer for any purpose, which is where I am now. I can't hire a lawyer for any purpose. You also find it difficult getting professional services, doctors, accountants, man. They don't want to work for it. They're told they don't have to help you. State agencies won't help you. Nobody will help you. The Liberty Preservation Act is a model law enacted in California, Michigan, and Virginia, and introduced in Georgia. It prohibits the state from engaging in indefinite detention without charges. That is, eviscerating habeas corpus. And in the description, there's a link to that. You can read that. You should be an advocate for the enactment of the Liberty Preservation Act in your state. Private security contractors charge large fees for activities that break the law of every state. They have prosecutorial immunity and are tax exempt. These provisions destroy the virtue and integrity of even the most stalwart individual and turn them into monsters and killers, mass murderers, hired assassins. Major provisions of this Nazi-inspired concept are found in NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which is a little bit misunderstood these days. It has for 60 years funded all things military. It's revised and reenacted each year to fund the Department of Defense. Many people think that NDAA just revokes your civil liberties, but it funds all the military. It's a voluminous law. So some of the myths regarding NDAA include, this is the 2012 law. This is when it started to become controversial about taking out habeas corpus and possibly 2012 NDAA doesn't apply to American citizens. That's a myth. It does. 2012 NDAA suspends habeas corpus.